Alrighty, hopefully I don't mess this up for a fourth time. So I saw that a couple of you guys were asking some questions and didn't really understand how to do the conversions. I will maybe see if I can do another video on how to fill out the um, costing sheet after this. But right now I'm going to be focusing on how to actually do conversions for the little note cards that we're supposed to be doing. I separated each recipe that we're doing into sections. So I have four sections. This is the 1, 2, 3 pie dough. This one contains both the apple pie and the caramel sauce. This one is the three berry pie, sorry. And this one is the streusel topping. You can also see inside the corners of these names. I also have the batch size. So pie dough is a batch of 1/3, apple pie is one batch, caramel sauce is a fourth batch, three berry cobbler is half a batch, and streusel topping will end up being 20 ounces. I'll get to how you can go ahead and do the conversions of that later on when we get to it. So for the column A, I will always have the ingredients. I will have it listed out in the same order as they are on the paper or in the packet that we originally got. I will have the name as the first row, and then starting with the second row downwards, I will have in order, again, in order of the paper that she gave us. In the second row, I will have the original amounts in grams. If you see a kilogram or a milliliter, the only reason I left it like that is to go ahead and show you guys how to convert kilograms or milliliters into grams. I left a little section open for those. And then in section D, I will try to keep it to where this will be our new yielded conversions. And then I also have a little section over here that has the original yield and yield of new conversions, which would be the original yield's new converted amount. So to start us off, I'm doing a 3, 2, 1 pie dough, flour, salt, butter, cold water, 1.36 kilograms, 30 grams, 9, 10 grams, and 450 grams. So I did see a couple questions on how to convert kilograms into grams. The easiest way to do that is to move the decimal point 3 times to your right hand side. So we're going to do 1.36, and we're going to move the decimals 3 times to the right, which would eventually turn out to be 1,360 grams. And this will be our gram conversion for the kilograms. And now after this, we have officially turned everything into grams. So now we have AP flour, which is 1,360 grams, salt 30 grams, butter 9, 10 grams, and cold water 450 grams. And in this section, this is where we're going to convert grams into the new converted grams, or the new converted yield. So because this is a 1/3 batch, as stated right here and down here, the way that I think of this is you can do it in two ways. So the first way is to go ahead and just straight up multiply 30 times 1/3. Chef Mara has already told us that this is one of the ways that she prefers it because multiplying the grams by the batch is usually the simplest way. So you can do it 30 times 1/3 is going to be 10. Now if you're having a little bit of trouble with figuring out the 1/3, multiplying it across, I also like to think of it this way. Looking back on math I don't remember when it was taught, but it's going to be the numerator and denominator problems, where it will be numerators are on top, denominators are on the bottom, and we're just multiplying straight across with fractions. So for a numerator, we would have 30. Ooh, where'd it go? For a denominator, we would have 1. And then multiplying it by numerator of 1 over 3. The reason I'm adding a 1 underneath is to go ahead and be able to make it into a fraction in order to multiply it by another fraction. I don't remember exactly right now why we put a 1 underneath, but what I do remember is it makes it like a whole, it makes the 30 a whole number, and it just makes it easier to multiply across instead of just leaving it open and then helping us guess or whatever. I'll just continue moving on fast enough to go ahead and not waste your guys' time. So right now we have 30 times 1. Since we're multiplying straight across, this one will be 30. Now we have 1 times 3, multiplying straight across, we have 3. Now these two numbers, we're already done with these. Now these two numbers make a fraction, and our fraction is now 30 divided by 3. And simply enough, because now we actually state the fraction 30 divided by 3, you can just figure it out from there. So what is 30 divided by 3? So 3 times what equals 30? Essentially, 3 goes into 30 10 times. So that is our answer, proven both ways. So this is our original way. 30 times 1/3 is equal to 10. And then taking a longer route, 30 over 1 times 1 over 3 is equal to 30 over 3, which is equal to 30 divided by 3, and 30 divided by 3 is equal to 10. So our first yield, our first converted yield, will be 10 grams. And now we just follow along with that. So I like this way better because essentially you just put this original gram in the 1 space above the 3 and then just divide it by 3. So it would be 910 divided by 3. And this would be 303.333 and so on and so forth. We'll deal with the conversion of actually making this into a workable unit for measuring during class. Now we have 450. So 450 divided by 3 is 150. And lastly, we have 13,060 divided by 3. This is 453.333 and so on. These numbers are not going to be our final numbers. Some of them are because they're already whole numbers, they don't have any decimal points, so these can just be transferred over. Anything that does not have a decimal point can be transferred over, and those will be your final numbers for those. So we already have cold water is done. Salt is done. And now we have to simplify these two numbers. So the rule is 5 or more up the score, 4 or less, let it rest. That's the easiest way that I can remember it, and it also rhymes, helps me a lot. So the way to figure this out is to find where the decimal point is, and the decimal point is between 3 and 3. The way to round is to find the number on the right side of the decimal point and look at the number to the left side of the decimal point. The right side of the decimal point determines on if the number will stay the same or if it will go up by 1 digit. Now, if we're looking here at 453.333, we have the decimal point between the two threes. 3 is less than 4, so it will not affect the original 3 numbers before the decimal point. So because 3 is less than 4 and not equal to 5, it will be 453 grams, and that will be our answer for AP flour. And then we'll do the same thing here. 3.3 is 3 more or less than 4. It's less than 4, so we're going to leave it as 303 grams. And essentially, we're done. These are going to be our numbers, which have been converted. These are our final numbers. And Control X, Control V, Okay. These numbers right here are going to be what you're going to put on your note cards in order to follow them along inside the class on Wednesday. So for pie dough, these are going to be our numbers. These are all in grams. Moving on to the next one, we're doing apple pie. Apple pie is already inside grams. Apple pie, is a 1 batch, so everything here does not need to be changed because essentially you would be multiplying 570 grams times 1, 140 grams times 1, 14 grams times 1, or if you wanted to think about it inside the fraction sense, it would be 570 divided by 1, which would give you 570. 140 divided by 1, which would give you 140. So these numbers are done. You have your pie dough, which is going to be the 1, 2, 3 pie dough, already inside its final form, 570 grams. The filling already inside their final form. We don't need to touch any of this. This will go directly onto your note cards. For the caramel sauce, Chef did say that there was a misprint, so for the heavy cream, instead of 2 pounds, it's going to be 1 pound as the original grams, or as the original measurement and weight. So converting 1 pound into grams, we have 453.592 grams. And then everything else is taken straight from the packet. Now, like everything else, we're going to go ahead and figure out the conversion and yield. So for this one, we have a 1/4 batch. 1/4 again is what you're going to be multiplying by as an individual number or something that you can divide by. We'll start with the easier ones. So 200, you can do 200 times 1/4, or what I'm going to be doing is 200 divided by 4, which is 50. So this is going to be 50 grams as our total for sugar. For glucose syrup, 140 divided by 4 is 35. Butter, 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. Because this one is a decimal, so the original amount in grams is a decimal, you can choose to do it either two ways. You can do the 5 or more up the score, 4 or less, let it rest. 4 or less, let it rest. On the original grams, so I can do that for you right now, we have 4, 5, and because 5 is on the right side of the decimal point, you're going to up the number 3 into 4. And what I'm going to do is actually divide 454 divided by 4. And that will give us 454 divided by 4. 113.5. This is the way that I like to do it because it's already converted, and then you can do the 5 or more up the score again. Or there is another option where you can do 500, 453.592 divided by 4 and get the number 113.398, which essentially gives us a similar number to the one that I already did, 113.5, 113.3. The only difference is that this one will eventually lead us to 113 grams as our total, while this one leads us to 114 grams as our total. So for me, these two are more of a preference. Always wait until the very end to completely put down in a permanent marker or whatever. But essentially, I don't think that 1 gram makes a whole lot of difference unless you're talking about leavening agents. So either of these should be fine. And then moving on, just going to move this over here to the stage where we completely convert and get our final numbers. So for heavy cream, we did all of this. We have two options. We have these two options. What I'm going to do is keep my original option. So 114 grams. Our sugar, we converted it to 50 grams. Our glucose, we converted it to 35 grams. And butter, because it's not a whole number and it has a decimal point, we're doing the 5 or more up the score, 4 or less let it rest. Because we have the number 5 on the right side of the decimal point, I am upping the digit right next to the decimal point on the left side. So instead of 7.5, we have 8 grams total. And this is going to be what we put on our recipe cards. The salt stays as a pinch, mostly because a pinch can't really be measured. But Chef can help us out on that one, so it can be just a small pinch. So this is what's going to be on your recipe cards. Again, for heavy cream, you can wait until Chef tells us the correct measurements in order for you to write it onto your recipe cards. But I would say for heavy cream that 1 gram does not make much of a difference. unless that 1 gram is pertaining to a leavening agent. Just to make sure, I will be coming back to go ahead and do the original yields into the new yields. For the 3-berry pie, or yeah, 3-berry pie ingredients, this is a half batch. Essentially, a half batch is equal to 0.5. So you can multiply all of these numbers in grams by 0.5 or 1/2. So what this would look like is 110 times parentheses 1 divided by 2. Another example, 910 times 0.5. Or of course, the way that I like to go, we have 910 divided by 2. Any of these three ways are acceptable. Any of these three ways will all get you the same number. So 910 divided by 2 is 455, 455, 455. I will put this to the side as a reminder, but essentially all of these ways, same exact answer, just different ways of doing math. There is never one way to do math. Alrighty, so we're starting off with strawberries. We have nothing to convert, no kilograms, no milliliters. So we're going to start off over here. We have 910 divided by 2. This is 455. We have 740 divided by 2. 370. 910 divided by 2. We already have that one. 455. 230 divided by 2. 115. 70 divided by 2. 35. And 620 divided by 2, which is 310. Now all of these numbers are whole numbers. They've already been converted, so there's no need to do 5 or more up the score, 4 or less let it rest. So what you will be putting on your card Control C. Are these conversions right here. This will be what you will need as needed. Again, everything is in grams. So you have your ingredients, your measurements in grams, and again, egg wash as needed. The chef will help us with that. Last but not least, the streusel toppings. This one is a little bit more complicated. What I want you to look at is the side. So the original batch calls for 4 pounds, 11 ounces, and when you add that together, 16 times 4, because 1 pound is 16 ounces, so 16 times 4 is equal to 65, I think. 16 times 4, oh, 64, sorry. 16 times 4 is 64. Then you add 11 to that 64 to equal 75. And so your total outcome for the original yield of this recipe is 75 ounces. What we are trying to do is make the 75 ounces into 20 ounces. I did get help with this one, both inside the Discord and from Chef Paul. But what you want to do is have an equation, which is the wanted amount or the wanted yield, the 20 ounces, divided by original amount or original yield, which would be 75. And then that equals the conversion amount. So essentially this is what it's going to look like. 20 divided by 75 is equal to, the answer that I got was this one. And it was also confirmed by Alex inside the group chat and Chef Paul. But instead of multiplying by 0.266666667, the 6 is supposed to go on forever. What we're going to do is the 5 or more up the score, 4 or less let it rest for the conversion itself. So instead of 0.26666, whatever, we're going to do the conversion is equal to 0.27. Make it easier on us. You can do 0.27 or 0.3. I would say don't do 0.3 only because of that difference. We'll go ahead and do 0.3 as a separate one to go ahead and check it out, but I would suggest sticking to the 0.27 as your main conversion. So again, we're starting out with the originals all in grams. There is no milliliters, no kilograms, so we're good. That's going to be open. So what we're going to do for this one, I don't really like using the fractions on this specific one because we have a whole decimal that we can work with, and I don't want to convert that to a fraction, so we're just going to do multiplication. So for this one, we're going to do 960 multiplied by 0.27 is equal to 960. 960 multiplied by 0.27 is equal to 3555.55. Now, just for the sake of it, we're going to multiply it by 3. So 960 multiplied by 0.3 is 288. Oop. Sorry. Ha 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 ha. You saw nothing. Okay. 960 multiplied by 0.27 is equal to 259.2. Okay, we have two separate answers. And these two separate answers, for this specific section, you may want to leave it open for questions for Chef Mara. It is always good to leave it open just in case. For me, I will be going for this section. Always ask questions. We have time. But for me, specifically for me, I will be following the 0.27. So 4 times 0.27 is equal to 1.08. Twelve times 0.27 is equal to 3.24. 36 times 0.27. You're always welcome to skip this part. I'm doing this physically right now. Is equal to 90.72. 240 times 0.27, 240 is equal to 64.8, and 720 times 0.27 is equal to 194.4. I'm going to do this side as well, everything, all of these original numbers times 0.3, just to make sure that it's around the same area, or the conversion is around the same area. So 4 times 0.3, 1.2, 12 times 0.3, 3.6, 336 times 0.3. And then 720 times 0.3. Alrighty, I did all of my conversions. These are all in grams. As you can see, the numbers are almost the same, a little bit far off. Some of them like 90.72 to 100.8, 64 to 72, 194 to 16. But some of them are similar: 1.08, 1.2, 3.24, 3.6. What we're going to do to these two, we're so busy. What we're going to do to these two is the 5 or more up the score, 4 or less, let it rest. So for 259.2, is 2 more than 5? Is 2 5 or more? No, so it's 2, 5, 9. Is for numbers like these, where there is a number that is bigger than 5, on the right side of the decimal that is directly touching, for numbers like these, where there is a number bigger than 5 directly touching the number next to the decimal, you can convert it to where this will turn out to be 1.1. And usually sometimes you'll get numbers where the number touching the decimal point will become 5 or will become a number bigger than 5. But for this one, we're going to leave it at 1, because 1 is still less than 5. So for this one, 370, so 91. 64 becomes 65, and 194 stays the same. On this side, we have 288, 1, 4, let's go 101, 72, 216. Okay, again, just a reminder, these are things, or these are the grams that we multiplied by 0.27. These are the outcomes of numbers multiplied by 0.27. These are the numbers multiplied by 0.3. These are the outcomes from the multiplication of 0.3. What you are going to put on your note cards will be essentially one of these two. Control C. Sorry about that. Sorry for your ears. Sorry for your ears. Control. Ooh. Okay, so for your note cards, you will have one of these two outcomes for your ingredients. Going back, you can stop the video here. We're done. I'm just doing the original yields now. So for this one, the original yield was 75 ounces and the conversion yield was given to us. So for this one, the conversion yield is 20 ounces. This is what we're going to get. This is what the recipe calls for after the conversion, so we're good with this one. There's no need to do any more math here. Completely complicated stuff. So going back to this one, we have a 0.5 yield, or we have a 0.5 batch. For the 3 berries, the original yield is 12 fluid ounces. Or otherwise 360 milliliters. A while back I glossed over it. Let's go back. I glossed over it, but essentially 1 milliliter is approximately 1 gram. So it could be 360 milliliters is approximately equal to 360 grams. So from the original yield to get the converted yield, you're going to do the exact same thing as we were doing over here, just to the yield. So it would be 360 grams, 360 divided by 2, which is 180 grams as the new yield. You can put this gram into ounces, but I'm just going to leave it into grams. Keep it easier for me. Alrighty, so for the caramel sauce. The caramel sauce, the original yield is 32 fluid ounces, or 960 milliliters. 960 milliliters is equal to 960 grams. This one is by a 4th batch. So again, I like doing the fraction since we already have it in a fraction. So 960 divided by 4. 240 grams is our new yield. Again, you can change it into fluid ounces, but you don't really need to, I would say. And then finally, we have the dough. The dough was done by a 3rd batch, and the original yield for the dough is 6 pounds. 6L. Is that an L? L. The S for pounds, or otherwise known as 2.27 kilograms. 2.72 kilograms. I'll go over this one more time as seen up here. Remember, the decimal should be placed 3 numbers to the right hand side in order to change kilograms into grams. So 2.72. Add a little extra zero just in case, I should have said that earlier. You can add a zero to make sure that there's 3 numbers behind the decimal point to help you out. It didn't keep my number. Okay, anyways. Now we have 2,720 grams of dough. And then we can divide this by 3. Is it? Yeah, divided by 3. And our new yield will be 2,720 divided by 3. 96.666. Okay. For the yield, it's going to be 906.66666, continuous forever. Usually there's a little line on top to signify that this singular number continues going on forever, but we're going to leave it at 666. So 906.666. If you want to, you can do it again, 5 or more up the score, 4 or less, let it rest. So this number becomes 90 and 7. So your choice between these 2 new yields, but essentially almost a whole hour explaining all the way through your little note cards. If there's anything else that I can help with, always reach out. Alrighty, bye-bye.